Welcome to a special BriefingsDirect podcast series coming to you from the 2015 Ariba Live Conference in Las Vegas. We're here the week of April 6th to explore the future of business commerce. We'll learn how innovative companies are tapping into business networks to harness the power of communities to discover, connect, and collaborate with peers and partners across the street or around the globe. Not only are these leaders better managing their spend and buyer-seller interactions, they're also gleaning insights and intelligence to learn from the past, capitalize on the present, and chart an effective course for the future, all in real time from a single platform. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host throughout this series of Ariba-sponsored BriefingsDirect discussions. Our next innovator case study focuses on Caesars Entertainment Corporation and how they are transforming supplier discovery and collaboration using cloud-based services and open business networks. We'll learn from Caesars how to drive an increase in diversity across their supply chain and how that's been accomplished using Ariba Discovery. And we'll hear firsthand how one supplier, M&R Distribution Services, has benefited from such supplier visibility. So please join me now in welcoming our guests. We're here with Jessica Rosman, Director of Supplier Diversity and Sustainability at Caesars Entertainment, based in Las Vegas. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, welcome.
And we're here also with Quentin McCorvey, Sr., the President and COO of M&R Distribution Services, and they are based in Cleveland. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with you, Jessica. What are some of the more difficult aspects of finding the right supplier for the right job under the right circumstances?
Sure. So oftentimes our portfolio managers look into their natural networks of suppliers we've already used before, suppliers who have contacted us. But that can be limiting. So having a wider network or using the discovery tool on Ariba has allowed us to open up to millions of different suppliers that might want to do business with us that we haven't met before. Additionally, we do numerous outreach events into the communities in which we operate so we can find untapped suppliers and include them into our supply chain.
What sort of requirements are there, and has that been changing over the years? Is there a moving target for this?
Yeah, so for Caesars, it really depends on the category or commodity that we're searching for. So certain commodities may require larger supply chains or more integrated processes than others. But for all of our suppliers, we're looking for quality, service, and price. And that may also include requirements around insurance or requirements around delivery time or other needs to meet those three areas.
People are familiar with the Caesars name, but your organization includes a lot more. Tell us about the breadth and scope of your company.
Sure. So Caesars Entertainment is the largest globally diversified casino network. So we're also the home of Horseshoe, Harrah's, Total Rewards, Paris, Rio, and obviously the most famous Caesars Palace in Las Vegas.
Quentin, tell us a little bit about M&R and why getting the visibility from folks like Caesars has been a good thing for you.
Yes, M&R Distribution Services, my company was established in 2008 by my partner, Joe Record, and myself. And I came out of banking, I have experience and background of 12 years in banking. My partner has been in the distribution business for over 20 years as a market leader in a regional distribution company. We are primarily focused on distributing products such as disposable gloves. Most MRO product lines are in our portfolio as well as personal protective equipment and trash liners. The question you asked relative to how this has been important for us or how Caesars' relationship has been important for us, I think it's been very important because, as Jessica said, we found each other through some of their outreach events that they have in the community. It was through a National Minority Supplier Development Council. My company is a nationally certified minority business. And so with this networking event and through a matchmaking event, I found someone on Bridget's team and learned a little bit more about Caesars and the opportunities that happen within Caesars. And then through further connections, we had some opportunities that really led to a stronger relationship.
What is it about making these connections between buyer and seller that's easier today? What's changed in the past several years, Jessica?
So technology has changed, but some things haven't changed. At the end of the day, business is about relationships. So to start that relationship, there are new ways that we can meet different businesses by doing outreach, having this discovery network where we can team up buyers and sellers through using NACE codes or other types of code, UNSP codes, and using those abilities, we can find those who want to sell and those who want to buy. But part of it is the same as it's always been, which is about having that face-to-face connection, knowing that there's a potential relationship, feeling comfortable that that business will deliver on the quality, the service, the need for the internal customer that there always has been.
And your title, Supplier Diversity and Sustainability, how important is that? How did that come about? And what are your goals?
Definitely. So Caesars Entertainment, it has a code of commitment. Our code of commitment is our code that says we have a responsibility to the community, to the environment, to our customers, and to our employees to be the best that we can be. And under that code of commitment, in line with it, is our supplier diversity program. So our supplier diversity program sits within our sourcing office, but also has a dotted line into the diversity department overall. And when we do outreach within the community, it's in part because in order for our businesses to grow, we're in really unique areas across the country. It's important that we find community and local business partners that can meet the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week business that we have. And it's different than other business types that are having a delivery on Monday and we don't need it again until next week. That outreach has allowed us to find small and medium-sized and large businesses that are minority, women-owned, veteran-owned, and other diverse businesses that can meet those needs.
And Quentin, tell me a bit about how long you've been working with Caesars. Is this strictly in Ohio at some of their properties there? Is it expanded across the company? Have you got sort of a beachhead that's then expanded? What's the nature of the business you have?
Well, I initially got engaged with Caesars, as I mentioned a little bit before, but through an outreach program. And through that, an opportunity came up for me to bid on a project with Caesars. And because I bid on that project, I had to get connected to the Ariba network. While I didn't win that opportunity, what I did win was the entree into a relationship with Caesars. And Jessica talked about a relationship is important. And for minority business, clearly, it's really about relationship development. You know, I'm not, as a minority-owned company, looking for a handout. I'm looking for a handshake, an opportunity to earn the business of a customer. I have to prove myself in being able to produce tier one pricing capacity, really help in solving pains within the supply chain network as well. And so with not getting this opportunity, I continued having conversations with Caesars and really continued to develop the relationship. Through that, Caesars has a mentoring program which I was involved and had the pleasure to become a part of. And through that mentoring program, I was able to sit down with Caesars and discuss certain goals that I wanted to accomplish, not only with my business personally, but also with a business opportunity with Caesars. And some of those things included, meeting the category managers in the categories where I was supplying into the organization, really understanding how to grow my KPIs, not only directly, but also with Caesars and some of the other opportunities that are there. And so through this mentoring program, we began to work on the relationship, and I began to meet other people within the supply chain aspects, more regionally, as well as the national folks from Jessica and her team, and her up and downline and across her team. And that's been very important process for me. So when we started out, basically the opportunities that I've gotten and that I'm going to get through the mentoring program are really to start regionally. There are casinos in Ohio where my primary markets are, really servicing the Ohio casinos, then move out regionally is a goal. And then also ultimately growing into being able to be a national supplier with all 52 properties at Caesars casinos.
How important has the Ariba Discovery and network been for you? How did you get on it? Was it easy? And where else have you been able to extend this visibility?
I can say, I guess, if it makes sense, I got into the Ariba network accidentally on purpose. On purpose because I had an opportunity to bid on a national contract with Caesars. When I had that opportunity, I got an invite from the buyer to sign up into Ariba. And really, so I had to put my profile in there in order to bid on the opportunity that was available to me. So I did that, and it was a quick turnaround on the bid, so I spent all of my time really trying to figure out how to get through this, how to get my profile updated, and how to get the bid engaged. Now, with that, I didn't realize, and I didn't really know that much about the network, how connected the matches were to opportunities. So I start seeing alerts, and I start seeing direct opportunities that really connected with my business. And through that, I said, let me investigate a little bit further. And when I investigated a little bit further, I began to look at some other opportunities and actually won a couple of opportunities through the system and through the Ariba network. So when I say accidentally and on purpose, I guess it was fortuitous that we had this opportunity to bid. But even though it wasn't a win directly with that opportunity, it was a win for me and my company.
And Jessica, how about from the buyer side at Caesars, using the network, having the data and the insights, the visibility? Has that added more value to your process? Obviously, you've got a certain specialization, but is there a more general value that you're seeing over time?
Yeah, so we've used the Ariba network for quite a while now. We started off with the RFP or the sourcing phase or module. We extended on to the contracting phase or module, and then we eventually went to the procure to pay. So we've seen kind of a plethora of Ariba services, and each one adding and building upon prior Ariba services that we'd used. So I can say in all of those areas, it's beneficial. It's beneficial because the lessons learned from a past RFP are archived, and you can go back in and find RFPs that I've used in the past. When we're mentoring suppliers, especially within our supplier diversity program, when we're talking to minority and women-owned suppliers, it helps us to know what some of the contract managers might be asking, or a little bit more about the categories when we can pull some of those RFPs. Not the entire RFP, we don't share all of those pieces, but unique items that might be applicable to future questionnaires. And that goes all the way through to the P2P. It keeps it easy in one place, and it archives the data for us.
So it sounds like you've got a real standardization about how you're going about these things. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I believe it is. Our sourcing team has evolved throughout this process to really category-driven leadership approach, and I think Ariba has been an integral part of that.
Any thoughts or recommendations with the 2020 hindsight now about other organizations that are looking for specific requirements in the suppliers that they're targeting?
Yeah, so I think as we continue to grow, Ariba also continues to grow in this area of supplier diversity. And using the Ariba Discovery Network has been also a help to us when we're trying to find minority and women-owned vendors in unique industries. An example of that would be also in Ohio. We were looking to find a woman-owned or minority-owned company in that region to sell CO2, and we put it into the Ariba Discovery Network, assuming that we wouldn't find anybody that we hadn't already met through our outreach events, because we had done very extensive outreach events in the community and talked to more than 300 local vendors, and yet we still were able to do so. And so I think that's one of those aspects that sometimes when you're looking for hard-to-reach vendors and looking for that opportunity or connection, it just takes it one step further.
And Quentin, I imagine as a business owner, you're always curious about what new business opportunities are available. Has the visibility within the Ariba environment, seeing what alerts come across, seeing what the bids are about, led you to perhaps pursue other business opportunities, lines of business within your company? Has it helped you grow?
It has definitely helped us to grow. When I initially looked at the Ariba network, I saw it as a procurement platform. But for me, it is actually more of a supply chain accelerator. And I say that in that, as any good business, what's important to you is deal flow. How do you get projects and opportunities in the pipeline? And so what Ariba has done, there's been a minimal level of inputs with a maximum level of outputs. So as a company, and as a smaller growing company, you're constantly looking at ways to grow opportunities, to grow market share. Do you invest, 20, 30, 40,000 in a B2B website? Do you engage in Google Analytics? Do you put sales executives in other parts of the country to begin to grow? And so those are all the decisions you have to make every day with a limited amount of resources, because you really want to put that into growing your company. And so what Ariba has done for me has been able to do that. So I don't necessarily have to have a larger scale sales team or some of the other things out there, but I can begin to look at opportunities where I can grow my company in other markets. I can service those markets. But it also gives me access to other Fortune 100 and 200 companies that I don't necessarily have the access to begin to look at that. I think it's also important for me to get a lot of ideas. Jessica talked a little bit about, the archived RFPs, but really mining through those archived RFPs to really see what companies are looking for, what their RFPs have been about, when are their sales cycles coming up again, when can I begin to look at those opportunities and target those opportunities, who are the purchasing and procurement managers that's managing those lines. I mean, that's tough data to find. I mean, it's tough to be able to find out, who's procuring resins for a company. I mean, you can Google their website, you can search on it, you can find it, but you never find that opportunity. And so it really closes down the sales cycle loop for me and gives me maximum value.
All right. Well, we're here at Ariba Live, of course, and there are lots of news being made. We're hearing about integrated services for travel and expenses. We're seeing more emphasis on the user experience, end-to-end processes that would end up in a mobile environment or any number of environments. What's of interest to you, and where do you see yourselves taking advantage of some of these new technological and, I suppose, process innovations?
I think one of the areas that is most interesting is learning about how to implement Ariba within your internal team and externally. So we've done a great job of it within supplier diversity program, but how do we roll that out further amongst our entire supply chain? So the takeaway is, how can we train internally and train externally to find results using Ariba?
Quentin, any thoughts about what's of interest here at the show, and then perhaps words of advice you could give other companies that are trying to improve their business using a business network?
I think Jessica hit on it again, that technology is really driving the market. My partner, who's been in the business for 25 years, he often tells a story about when he first started out, he left home every day with a pocket full of quarters and a pager. That day is gone. This is not your father's Oldsmobile. So we really have to begin to leverage technology in a different way. For me, one of the things that I'm really seeing as a distributor, I'm looking at, and I've been typically looking at, the sales side. How can I look at opportunities there? But what's also been important for me to see and really learn is that I can look at it on the buy side. How can I not only find other manufacturing partners to really begin to drive more costs out of my supply chain and even be more competitive in my business environment? Relative to advice for other customers or other people or other suppliers who are using the network, I think it's worth spending some time really understanding how Ariba works and what are the components that are within the system. I see Ariba has some very knowledgeable account executives who work directly with you, and spending some time with your account exec to really make sure that you update your profile to the point where you can get maximum amount of exposures, the maximum amount of hits. And then again, to reiterate what I said before, I think it's important to not only look at the opportunities that are available to you, but closed opportunities, and see where you can begin to look at opportunities and see if there are other business ideas or business partnerships that you can develop through the Ariba network.
Well, great. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been learning about how supplier discovery and collaboration using cloud-based services and business networks helps to identify suppliers with specific qualifications, and it's also helping seller organizations grow their business dramatically. So a big thanks to our guests. We've been here with Jessica Rosman, Director of Supplier Diversity and Sustainability at Caesars Entertainment. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And also Quentin McCorvey. He's a senior. He's the President and COO of M&R Distribution Services. Thank you, Quentin.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And a big thank you to our audience for joining this special podcast coming to you from the 2015 Ariba Live Conference in Las Vegas. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host throughout this series of Ariba-sponsored BriefingsDirect discussions. Thanks again for listening, and come back next time.